Greetings all, Mercury here. I just decided to pop on. I don't know if I'm going to stay on very long or not. I may just throw the question out there and then come back and check the comments beneath the video in a couple, or tomorrow. So it's hard to tell what's really going on in the world. You never know what to make of what you see through media. And I've been wondering how everyone out there in the sorting myself out community has been affected. Or not just that, if you're someone just coming across this, I'm curious rather than to hear any sort of statistics, I'm curious to hear individual cases of how people are doing. So whether you're an active part of the community or just someone stumbling across this, my only real goal with the video was to throw out the question of how is the pandemic affecting you personally? And on whatever level you feel like sharing, like has it had an impact on your employment? How is it affecting your lifestyle? How is it affecting you mentally and emotionally? Obviously, for anyone who knows me at all, it really made absolutely no difference whatsoever. If it weren't for information over the internet or like the few people in the world I talk to, I wouldn't know what's going on because I already live like a hermit. But I'm aware that I'm a minority case, and I was wondering how everybody's doing. The shit I'd been going through, I'm doing a bit better lately. I'm up and down, and so I don't know how much activity with the channel or conversations with people I could have. Coming up, I'm just going to sort of take things day by day. One purpose for this video is just to find out if there's anyone that needs anything, if anyone is stressed out by this or is really struggling, even unrelated to what's going on. I might be able to make muster the energy to handle some phone calls, like some private one-on-ones if anyone's really struggling. And if everyone's really shut in, again, I'm not making any promises. I'm just wondering, do people want more content at the moment? Or is the fact that so many people are staying home just meaning that there's a flood of content anyway? Like if other people are eagerly trying to lap up all the views and everyone's saturated with content, that's cool. But on the other hand, if people would like to see me and Ryan come on more, again, and I'm not speaking for Ryan making any promises. Also, I'm looking into seeing if I can find a way to host some watch parties coming up, if anyone's interested in that. So if anyone's shut in and bored, maybe we find a place where we don't have to worry about copyright infringement and we could watch some movies together, maybe themed around things going on currently. Listen to some music, just sort of hang out somewhere a bit more casually, not worrying about affecting the YouTube channel. So yeah, for anyone watching this later, and I'm going to check the comments in a minute. I see you're here, Dick. Nice to see you. But yeah, once this is up, anyone who wants to comment beneath, I'm going to come back and take a look at what people have written. So on the one hand, even if you don't need anything, I am just curious how this is affecting everybody, whether we've spoken before or not. Anyone who feels like sharing how this is affecting them, it would be neat if the comment section turned into just sort of a mini poll of the random selection of whoever comes across this to find out what's really going on out there. And then if anyone needs anything, if anyone's struggling and needs to talk, and even not just to me or Ryan, some people out there are lonely and struggling. There's probably a lot of other people like that. So if you come across this and you're not looking for help, but you are interested in being there for other people, if anyone needs a kindly stranger to talk to, yeah, if anyone even bothers to comment, it'd be cool to see the comment section become a place where a couple people can cross support each other as well. All right. And yeah, if anyone's interested in doing some hangout parties and just getting together digitally to hang out, watch some movies or something like that, comment below. So, Dick Justice says, doing okay, man. How you've been holding up? I'm a bit worried about some family members, but overall, my lifestyle's not changed. I'm somewhat of a hermit myself at this point in my life. Yeah, and the worry about some family members is natural. I think everybody's got that. And again, yeah, I don't want to get into talking about people I know personally, but there are some people that it could be dangerous for. But overall, I'm not really worried about anything. I trust that we're all going to get the experiences that best serve us with whatever's going on here. Okay, Dick, cool. Yeah, so actually, I've had some thoughts about some things we could watch that would both be entertaining, but also would be good for setting up a bit of a discussion after as well. So I'm fucking horrible with computers, and I have a lot of internal resistance to trying to up my technical skills at all, but we're going to see if Grizz can get me capable of hosting a hangout on my own. Like, I know I could do it with Ryan, but Ryan's really fucking busy with shit. And like Victoria's someone who's got to be more careful. So I do know he would love to like come on with me and host some hangouts together, but I don't know how long it will be until he's able to. And I obviously have plenty of time. I'm not sure how things are going to go for me personally. I'm up and down enough that I don't want to try to predict anything. But if Grizz can manage to get me set up somewhere, and we're not sure whether we do it on Discord or D-Live possibly, you can get away with some pretty relaxed viewing, possibly. I've never used it. I don't know. But I think from what I understand, it's somewhere you can like stream, but it doesn't stay up. But yeah, if Grizz can teach me how to do that, I do have some stuff in mind that we could all watch together. You're in the Discord, right, Dick? So, Maggie Ellis, hi, welcome. Okay, Grizz showed up. Yeah, so Grizz, also, can you put a Discord link? Because I don't know how to do that. And anyone who does want to do like some hangouts, because possibly if I'm doing better and if the technical thing isn't too hard, maybe I could even do a bunch of them. Like if that's something people want, like if people are stuck in their homes and aren't accustomed to that or aren't Like, part of me would imagine that a bunch of people going on voluntary isolation, that they would be thrilled about that, and they would want to disconnect from the internet and take advantage of it like a silent retreat, or even if not completely. Anyway, but on the other hand, if that's not how some people are reacting, and if anyone's feeling the lack of being able to go out and have social gatherings, we could do some digital gatherings instead. And I'm pretty sure I could find lots of content for us to watch that, most of you wouldn't have seen. Okay. I got distracted by Grizz showing up. I was reading what Maggie said. I started feeling tonight my first sense of panic about the economy, and I can't help but feel like so something nefarious is going on. Apologizing for the typos. That's fine. Let me just see. And Gris says we can test the Discord after. Benjamin, hi, welcome. Says some people may be moving into my house temporarily. So is that a good thing? Like, are you excited about that? Or is that a burden or a stress on you? And I'm going to respond to you in a moment, Maggie, about your concern about the economy. I'm not skipping that. I just wanted to go down to see if anything else was said. So Grizz says something nefarious is always going on. Okay, so the point about the economy. I think that's possibly something a lot of people could be worried about at this time. And I don't understand the real world. I don't know how the economy works. And so I really have no idea what's going to happen moving forward. But my thoughts on this are, the advantage of the situation is that this is not a disaster that has the kinds of consequences that would affect a resource-based economy. Now, I realize we're not in a resource-based economy, and that what's happening will affect the economy we have. But that's because of the strange way our economy functions. So, like, for example, a disaster where there would be real world consequences in a resource-based economy would be if we had some sort of global catastrophe that knocked the power out worldwide, that, massive earthquakes took down half of our bridges and half of people's homes were damaged. That's something that would damage the economy, and there would be a real world reason behind that as well. That would be something hard to get out of. But what we're losing here, while each life is precious and all of that, on that level, this is completely different. I'm not talking on that level. I'm talking on a sort of population planning level. The losses we're experiencing here shouldn't need to damage our economy. We're not going to lose a significant portion of our workforce. We're not losing any resources here. And in fact, as long as we get like our farmers to work and we keep the power on, there's a lot of jobs that people have that society doesn't really need. It's ways of making money. Like, we can live without whatever the next fidget spinner is that's going to be produced. If we can maintain all our means, like all our needs, and a certain group of people have to slow down for a while and do nothing, they will be ready to re-enter activity. And we still will have all of our infrastructure there. We still have all the same natural resources. And it's possible that this situation will force us to improve the way we run things. And that in the long run, this could be better for the economy. Or this could be the beginning of a complete disaster. Like 20 years from now, they may look back and say, okay, this was the beginning of World War III. It's like if we react badly to this, if we fuck our economy up and then turn on each other like rats, and if the stress causes politicians to show their worst side, and we start having populations fighting amongst themselves, governments fighting with each other, and then some moron in charge starts shooting nuclear weapons, like that could totally happen. This could be the beginning of some chain of events that ends the world. On the other hand, this could make us realize that the people we've put in charge of the system matter more than it seems when things are going easily. Also, this could force us all to reevaluate what's really important, what we really need, to have some time to reflect on what we're doing. This is also an excellent time for people to do shadow work. Like when you're under stress, when there's real problems out there in the world, to take time to be mindful, to observe how you react to things. The things that you worry most about losing. Like if someone commenting, that there's some people that they love that could be at risk. Like notice that. And maybe that worry is telling you haven't been spending enough time with those people, or you haven't called them often enough. There's deep messages within our reactions to difficult situations. And pain and hard times can be a lesson. And so I don't know which way this is going. Also, we could deal with this much better than everyone thinks, so that life does return to basically what it was before. That's possible. Or this could be the beginning of something that 20 years from now, they look back and say, well, that was the beginning of the end. Or, wow, that was the beginning of the next evolution of our collective consciousness. Maybe at this point, maybe this will be the dipping point that makes us find some sort of integral system, like Ken Wilber talks about. And so that decades from now, people will look back and that maybe that's the next version of the Enlightenment, that next major step forward for society. We could be at the beginning of that, or at the beginning of the end of the world. Either of those I would consider an apocalypse. That's an end of the world either way. And whether it's a golden end of the world or a disastrous one, or that this just blows over somehow, I have no idea. But regardless of which happens, I had a point I was getting to. The way I'm dealing with it is I'm not concerned about the large picture. So sometimes we get caught up in worrying. Like, think of this like a story where we're all the various characters, and fate or God or just the reality of the situation playing out is like the author writing all that, like writing out the situation. So we don't know right now whether the author's writing a story about going into a golden age, into the destruction of the human race, or just a briefly stressful time that returns to life as normal. We don't know what book we're in. So all I'm focused on, instead of worrying about what book we're in, is just paying attention to my inner guidance as to what I should be doing in my now. And when I do think about the future, like the various scenarios, I contemplate in each of them, well, what would be the best way? If that's the experience coming up, what's the best way to get the most growth and positive experience out of that? So if this is us moving to a new way of thinking, and that this is just a stress that is going to improve things in the long term, what do I do in that scenario? If things just go back to normal, what do I do in that scenario? And if it's the end of the world, what would I do in that scenario? Like if this is the beginning of us all gradually dying over the next 10 years, like possibly not even from the virus, but you never know what butterfly effect there is. If we're all going up in mushroom clouds in 10 years. Well, what am I meant to experience by living here at this time? That's the way I'm handling all of that. But I'm particularly depolarized when it comes to the idea of an apocalypse, both like the new golden age and the disaster side of it. I've been through multiple psychotic breaks where I experienced the end of the world. And so I have been psychotically obsessed with apocalypse, like desiring it in the sense of a golden age, an end of this world, a revelation. Yeah, I've had my first psychotic break was the like it was all revelation. I grew up Catholic, and so the first one was very Catholic themed. And I was desperate to participate in the final end of the world and the kingdom of God coming back and living through the revelation times. And then in depression and in other states, I've gone down lots of conspiracy rabbit holes and whatnot. And the darker times, I have been fearful of a collapse, especially those periods where I was just suicidally depressed for 2 years, realizing that I couldn't handle a end of the world scenario. Can't even take care of myself, without disability. So I've experienced both sides of that and gone really deeply into them. And after having multiple delusions about the end of the world, once I started learning how to put my madness in perspective, and once I was sort of trained in how to be a proper lunatic and was able to understand what I was going through better, I remember talking to my angel, and asking him, so is there an apocalypse coming? And one, on the practical level, my angel told me that whether there's an upcoming or not, I don't need to worry, because if I need to prepare, he will let me know. And he didn't warn me to prepare for this. And I'm basically unaffected by this. I mean, the last time I ordered groceries, I couldn't get toilet paper, and there was a few other things I couldn't get. But that doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter if I can't get, there was food available. I've got power. I've got everything. So unless things get worse. But anyway, I was told if there ever is something to prepare for, that I would be warned to in enough time. But I was also told, and I was told that so that I don't focus on it anymore. And the point was, like my angel made, was all of my psychotic experiences of experiencing the end of the world. It wasn't about whether or not the world is going to end. I shouldn't focus on that at all. It's not about a prediction for others. It was about the experience I had to have. And I realized that when you look at things phenomenologically, to me, it doesn't matter that my two major psychotic breaks were just psychotic breaks and not the end of the world. Because particularly in the second one, I experienced the end of the world. I thought it was real. And that's one of the things that made me realize we are never perceiving objective reality directly. We're living in a reality that we are generating within our own consciousness. We're only aware of our own awareness. Going through a complete psychotic break of the end of the world, the memories of that are no different than if it had really happened. And so, in that sense of and I think maybe Peterson would get what I meant by or Pajot, Jonathan Pajot, I think would get the idea of, for me, that was real. I really went through the end of the world. And having done that repeatedly, especially experiencing both ends of it, sort of that thing if you can go into both polarities and see what they contain, but also what they lack, then you can find a way to walk that middle path. Like, it would be wonderful if everyone, like if every 20-year-old could spend 5 years conquering the world and become fucking billionaires and successful and famous and well-liked, so that the world offered them everything they want. A stable full of prize racehorses, yachts, islands, all the praise they could want, so that they could, and for them to be mindful of the experience and to see what that has to offer when you go entirely materialistic and take everything. Then to take that $1 billion, give it all away, and go spend 5 years living like a monk or in isolation or as a beggar. And I think if you could go into both of those experiences and learn what there is to learn from them, then you're free to walk the middle path. You will no longer be polarized for or against money. You won't hate or love poverty. You won't hate or love being wealthy. And I've gotten that way with the apocalypse. I've experienced both ends of it, and I've landed where I'm in the middle. I'm good with it. Whatever it is that comes, I'm just going to focus on playing my part and not worry about what kind of story it is. All right, I rambled for a long time there. And Maggie says she's still working for now. Good. Benjamin says maybe a little burdensome. I like roaming around with more space. Okay. So, well, that's nice of you then to be taking people in when you do like your space. Make sure to take good care of yourself. Like if you're doing this for the sake of being a good person, if you can, give yourself a little reward. And if it gets frustrating, like I assume you chose to do this. So if it gets frustrating at some points, because guests can be difficult, keep in mind you wanted to do it, and take good care of yourself so you don't get annoyed with them. And Victor says, we answering the world's problems here. No, just rambling about our thoughts on the world. I don't think I have answers for anyone else. I'm not preaching. I'm just sharing my thoughts. Dick says, Lex Friedman just put out a great video covering how the pandemic will affect our world at multiple levels of analysis. I recommend checking out his YouTube channel. Cool. Yeah, I might do so. And Maggie says, the government forcibly shutting down businesses feels somehow worse than a natural disaster. I could see how you'd feel that way. Again, I don't really feel like part of society. I largely feel like society is none of my business. I'm significantly different from everybody else. I'm fully aware of that. I know that what's good for me isn't good for most people. And I don't know. Everyone can do what they want in the city square. I never go there. On the other hand, I care about each person individually. And I hope you guys are all electing governments that actually work for you. I'm also not judgmental of adversity, though, is the other thing. Like, if we all just got what we wanted, we wouldn't grow or develop spiritually. So sometimes the thing we want least is what we need. So maybe if we have a shitty government, and I'm saying that because if you think we have a shitty government, I have no intention of arguing with you. I have no firsthand experience with them lately. And if you think we have a great government, that's fine. But If you do think we have a shitty government, maybe that's what we need, though. Maybe that's what we need to push us to develop our personal resources. Maggie says, I do understand what you're saying, but the longer this goes on, the more anxious I feel. This can't go on too long. I don't want to end up being we turn around in a month and realize we were asleep. Yeah, that's completely understandable. And if I was sharing shit about how I'm not worried, that's not me saying that my reaction's proper or better. Well, where are you living, Maggie? I'm in Canada. Dick says, my hope is that in the end, this will all bring us closer together, but I think April's going to be a rough month. Yeah, it can absolutely do that. Like, we tend to take things for granted when we have them all the time. Living out in the country, I get power outages, a lot more often than in other areas, sometimes out overnight and whatnot. It's amazing how much having your power go out every now and then for a day or two makes you really appreciate it in a way you don't normally. Look at social media, look at mainstream media. We love to bitch and complain about everything. We complain about government, we complain about each other, we complain, like, we're just, and not everyone, but like that's what's loud on the media. Like, I'm not saying that's what the whole population's doing. I don't know what the population's doing. I'm a hermit. I'm just getting, and I don't consume that much social media, so I don't really know what's going on. But a lot of that negativity was us kind of acting like spoiled brats and not realizing how much we have. Not taking advantage of all the opportunities in front of us, and not even just like economic, like financial business things, like the parks you could have walked through, the days you could have taken the kids to the beach that you didn't. Maybe us all losing society for a little while will make us appreciate it more when we get it back. All right, and if April's going to be a rough month, another thing I found, yeah, I'm usually reluctant to give any advice, but fuck it, I will give advice. If anyone's like worried about April and if you're stressed out and you've got a lot of extra time on your hands, a great way to deal with that is to find somebody else to help. Sometimes it's when we have real problems that we get the most out of helping other people. So Maggie says, I totally understand all of your theories about it, what it could be mean. It's just good to get this all out and hear you talk about it. Thanks, man. You're very welcome. I'm glad you joined us tonight. Yeah, and if people are struggling, again, I'm not making any promises. I have no idea how I'm going to be doing over the next couple weeks and months. But also, what is everyone else's experience of like being shut in? Are you wanting more content, or is the fact that everyone's shut in means that there's floods of stuff anyway? Because of me coming on now and then and talking through this shit helps, even one person each time I do it, I'd be willing to make the effort. Dick says a full-on global pandemic because some motherfucker ate a bat, to quote Duncan Trussell. I find that fixation odd just because we don't eat bats. Even if it came from eating a bat, who fucking gives a shit? If it had come from eating a Big Mac, we wouldn't be blaming like American culture. Who gives a shit what it came from? People eat weird shit all over the world. Everything eats everything. I don't know how far behind I am now, but Benjamin says I felt a little like that in late 2011. So maybe when I was talking about apocalypse stuff. And Louis Philippe says, "Hi, been stuck at home. Sucks." Well, I'm a total shut in anyway. So I do have difficulty putting myself in the mindset where that sucks for people. I love home. And I love isolation. But I realize that's unusual. So why does being at home suck? Also, keep in mind how often we feel like there's just not enough hours in the day. That with your job, with everything going on, you've got all these things in your back of your head that, maybe you've thought, like, you hear about all the benefits of meditation, but you think, oh, who has time? That you have a reading list that you just never have the time to get around to. If you've been meaning to get yourself exercising, if you've been meaning to do Jordan Peterson's self-authoring program, if you're like me and your house is an absolute disaster and you realize the effect that it has on your life, it's a great time to do spring cleaning. It's an opportunity here of being given time that you wouldn't normally have to do the little things that you never get around to. Okay, Benjamin says, I'm 23 and it's my mom's idea to take people in. Oh, okay. See, why the fuck? I acted like as if you were in exactly my situation in my mind. For some reason. I just imagined like you were an adult taking people into, well, no, sorry, not that you're an adult. Anyway, you get what I meant. And Benjamin says, I did homeschooling during high school and read a lot of old history and philosophy and felt enlightened, but also strange. It also feels like it exasperated my asocial tendencies. Hey, there's nothing wrong with being an introvert or being antisocial. Like, there's horrible people who are antisocial and there's wonderful people who are. Okay, and Maggie's in South Carolina. Patty's here. Hi. Good to see you. Synchronicity to me is confirmation that it's all on time. With that ideology, I'm forced to believe that in tough times, offhanded. Shit, where was I? Not quite sure I know what you meant by that, Patty. Offhanded says, I'm scared shitless. I just moved my wife and our 2-month-old back in with her parents. I work for a water plant, so I'm part of the essential services. Okay, excellent. I've accepted my risk, but not theirs. From what I understand, it's not dangerous for babies necessarily, is it? Or am I wrong about that? But anyway, I can see why you'd be worried. So many close loved ones. On the plus side, at least you've accepted your risk. And I can totally understand why you're having difficulty accepting theirs. And you can go two ways with that. On the one hand, if that's not too big of a burden, you can keep that worry you have about them and use it to motivate yourself to take really good care of them. Also, keep in mind, all of us, all of our loved ones, have always been at risk of dying at any moment. We could always lose anyone, and this is a good reminder to appreciate people while we have them. Also, it's not just the virus. Even those of us that are healthy and that would have no problem directly from the virus, we could get hit by a car tomorrow. We could get struck by lightning. Like, yeah, I've had both of those happen. I can tell you firsthand. You can get hit by a bus out of nowhere, and you can get hit by lightning out of nowhere. And it's always when you're not expecting it. So none of us know how much time we have. And it's a good reminder to appreciate each other while we have each other. On the other hand, offhanded, if you want to get over that, because you don't have to be scared to take proper precautions, take a look at your fear. What does it have to tell you? What can you learn from your fear? First of all, one thing's obvious. Your fear's showing you how much you love those people. Then once you've learned from your fear, do you want to get rid of it? And yeah, this is a great time to do work on ourselves psychologically, and it's a great time to do shadow work. Although, like you say, you're working, so it's not like you have all that downtime. But I'd said earlier, if anyone is really struggling and wants to talk, I don't know what I can handle. But if people write in, I'll see. If anyone wants to either come on and like discuss how this is affecting their life, record it for the channel, possibly we could do that. Or if you just are struggling and want to talk privately, I'll see what I can do. But anyone just write into the channel, but don't necessarily expect a quick response. I'm tired of hearing my voice. I'm going to read quietly for a moment. And Grizz brings up, if it came from eating bats, it would have hit when Ozzy did it. I was waiting for that joke. You know, Ozzy didn't know it was a real bat, right? Like, people think that was him being so fucking hardcore. He thought through a fucking prop bat. Okay, and Benjamin says, yes, apocalypse feelings then. Okay, offhanded says, your rambling is comforting. I don't know why, but thank you for sharing your journey and experience. All right, good. I'm glad someone's getting something out of this. I had been thinking for days about coming on, and on the one hand, I'd think, like, with people having time stuck at home, should I go on? And then other parts of me would just think, like, they've got better things to do than listen to you. So maybe I'll try to come on a bit more often if it's not too much pressure on my mental state. Dick says, I can't think of an animal that is less appetizing than a bat. I'd be curious what a bat tasted like. On the other hand, like, I love bats. They're sort of one of my spirit animals. So I wouldn't want us eating bats and like declining their population. But I would try bat if I was somewhere that people ate it. And it was, well, assuming it was safe to do so. Okay, and so Maggie's response to something Benjamin said that I just read quietly. So Benjamin said something about feeling comfortable talking to people like online. Maggie says, exactly. Is it a good or bad thing that I feel more comfortable these days with my random anonymous cyber family? I would say that's a good thing. Because really what you want is to be more comfortable with everyone, both your in real life people and your cyber family. So if becoming more comfortable with your cyber family feels good, like that's good. And especially if it's not lessening how you are within real life. We're all different. And if you find a particular thing that makes it easier for you to connect with people, I just think that's a good thing. Whether it's that you find it easier to connect with people online, anonymously, or whether it's you find easier to connect with people when there's an activity going on, or if you find it easier to connect with a certain type of person. If you're, I don't know, so like you have difficulty with the average person, but with a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons nerds, you can feel a strong connection. If you're very into music and at a concert, you feel more connected to people. Look for the activities that make you feel more comfortable and connected. Follow that is what I'd say. Like, and of course, you don't want your online activity to take away from real life interaction. Offhanded says perspective. You bring perspective. Thank you for that. Yeah, and often like what's his name, Vervaeke, John Vervaeke talks about how the role of the shaman often was to that we get stuck in a certain way of thinking, that idea outside of the box, that's hard to do, and that what the shaman often does is just disrupts your normal thinking process and upends things so that you begin to see things differently. And so I've thought, like, perhaps that's how I can be helpful to people. And in that degree, it doesn't even matter if the perspective I'm discussing with you is correct or not. But if I can offer a different perspective that just takes you out of the way you were looking at it before, then once you can see things the way you saw them before, you can see them from my perspective, maybe that will loosen you up enough that you can find a third way of perceiving everything that is more correct than what you were thinking before or what I suggested. Also, I could ramble on about an idea that could lead you to the truth, not because I'm right, but because I'm wrong, in an interesting way that gets you thinking differently and leads you to finding the next level of thinking that negates what I'm saying. And so Dick says, how do you do shadow work exactly? What's your process? That feels difficult to explain right now. Yeah, and I was really intending to make this like a short video, like to come on for like 10, 20 minutes. And I was more hoping to come back and read comments later. I'll talk about that another time, or both me and Ryan will, possibly. Just those sub-personalities aren't active at the moment. Hi, Jules. And sorry when I do that to people. It's just I can't always access all parts of my self. And fuck, this is even, I don't even know how to explain that. So I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to read the next comment. And yeah, Dick, you're cool anyway. I know you're not bothered by that. I'll try answering that some other time when I feel in a better mindset to do so. Maggie says, you're a real sweetheart. I got to try to sleep. Thanks for being here. Hang in there and I'll do the same. Hope to see you again soon. Really, thank you. You are very welcome, Maggie. That is so nice of you to say that. Yeah, that really made me feel all warm and fuzzy. I'm so glad you joined us tonight. I hope you have just a wonderful journey through your dreamlands, and I'd love to meet you here online again sometime soon. Dick says, I agree with offhanded. I always appreciate the ramblings, even if I miss the live stream. Clearly, the universe does not appreciate it when humans eat pets. All right, yeah, and thanks for that feedback. I guess with everything I've been struggling with, if I'd thought people were going to be reacting like that, maybe I would have come on a couple days ago. A lot of the parts of me that just sort of say, like, well, what the fuck do you have to say that's going to matter to anyone? We're active. I probably would have come on sooner. And Grizz says it's easier to overshare with strangers who don't know the people you're talking about. Yeah. Also, it's much easier both to share with people, but also to be like the one listening when your lives don't affect each other. So if it's like a family member, a close friend, what you share with them affects them. So it's harder for them to just focus on how it affects you, because how it affects them comes into play. So you might come to someone, looking to talk through some problems, and they're not going to react well because, well, fuck, those problems put stresses on their life. Same thing from the reverse. If I'm talking like a real life loved one, a family member or something, through something difficult, that's harder than talking to audience members where our lives are completely disconnected and where, it's not affecting my parents. It's not affecting my kids. It's not. So there's something about the separation of our worlds that can make it easier to share really open and honestly on both ends. And it can make it easier to receive a lot of open and honest. Hi, Linda. How you doing in these times? Yeah, I'm going to read quietly for a minute. I'm Grizz. So Jules says, I'm caught up. I'm down to the end. Jules says, what kind of advice can you give seniors trying to graduate in this situation? Two questions. One, are you asking because you're a senior or because you have a loved one that is, and you're asking about them. So is it you? And if so, how old are you? And what do you mean by graduate in this situation? Are you saying, what advice do I have for seniors that are at the point, like by graduate, do you mean die? Oh, fuck, no. I'm tired. You don't mean senior like senior citizen. That was fucking really stupid. Because I read senior as senior citizen, I didn't take graduate literally. Okay. So you're a senior trying to graduate. I got you. Fuck it. Well, what advice do you need? And so what's going on with your school? Are you doing it online now? Benjamin says hang in there and use the free time to do a bunch of research. Tell them to pursue a career in essential services so they don't have to go in debt in crisis. Well, I would need to know much more about Jules to give any kind of advice. I would, like, first of all, is this interrupting the flow of your classes? What are you studying and why? Before this happened, what were your plans and what's changed for you? Like, are you still going to be able to graduate in the same amount of time? Or is your schooling on hold or what? Grizz, Benjamin said you fucked up, that the Discord link takes him to the browser, not the app. Yes, but just advice for people in general. Okay, I usually have difficulty with that because, like, I'm not on YouTube because I have a message to spread. I try to tailor my advice to what people want. Like, I don't have advice that I would impose on people. When someone comes to me for advice, the first thing I want to do is ask them what they want so I can give them the advice to pursue what they want. Or if they're confused about what they want, advice as to how to figure that out. But okay, so if I had to think of the most general advice, actually, I would go to, okay, a couple things popped into mind. So I don't know, are you familiar with Peterson because you're on this channel or not? My biggest piece of advice, and this is just to everyone, is I think telling the truth, that you cannot overstate how important that is. So listen to what Peterson has to say about honesty and telling the truth. Check out Sam Harris's book on lying. I'm blanking what it's called. But the audio book was on YouTube for a while. That whole thing is fantastic, worth listening to. And again, I don't know what you believe in, but on a psychological level, also like physiologically and health-wise, stress isn't good for us. Lie detectors show that we react, like, lying is one of those things where I think the science does show us the morality. The reactions our bodies have in lie detector tests show that our body reacts stressfully to lying. Stress isn't good for your health. But also, if you're at all spiritual or if you're into high magic, any of that shit as well, honesty should be thing number one. Pay attention to everything you say. Learn to become mindful. Listen to what you're saying and ask yourself, like, first of all, is this true? And then even if you say it's true, is it true because you know it, because you've lived it in some way, experienced it, or do you just know it's true because it's a fact? It's just something you've read and you're repeating. But being honest, yeah, I could go on for hours about different levels of impact that has on your life. Also, learning mindfulness. Learn to be aware of your emotions, your mind. Yeah, I advise mindfulness meditation. And I know not everyone's built for this. But if you can take a period of silent isolation, but where you're totally cut off, like where you're not using your phone, where your phone is off, where you're not checking emails, like, and ideally, if you can get somewhere in nature and spend a solid month or two alone. Yeah. So, like, to young people graduating, before you jump into life and get active, I remember I advised, and I mean, James wasn't able to take off a month or anything, but I'd advised him and he managed to take like a week or something, and he got a lot out of it. But as difficult as going into isolation for a while can be, if you can go into isolation for just the longer, the better. A couple days is better than nothing. A couple weeks is all right. But if you could do 2 months in a quiet cabin without electronics, without a connection to the world, like where you've just got your supplies and, you know, whatever, your acoustic guitar, writing supplies, puzzles, books. Our society doesn't encourage people to take a time of silent retreat. And again, I could go on quite a bit about the benefits of solitude, but I don't know. I think my desire to talk is running out. Okay, yeah. So you say you love Peterson. So then another thing, and this one will sound stupid because I haven't done the self-authoring. I got the program and never got around to even opening it. I'm one of those people. But from everyone I've talked to, the self-authoring is excellent. And from what I've heard about it, I understand why it's good. So I would recommend doing the self-authoring if you haven't already. Offhanded says, when you doubt that streaming will be of value to anyone, please know that it isn't necessarily what you say, but rather the manner in which you seem to naturally weave your way through ideas. Okay, cool. Jules says, self what? The self-authoring program. I know the link for it. Ryan, my partner in the channel, he has a video called self-authoring results 6 months later or something. But Ryan put up a video 6 months after he did the self-authoring to see like as how it affected him. If you check out that video, I know he'll have a link for it, but it's a program Peterson put together that it walks you through planning out your life. So there's 3 parts of it. There's past authoring, which is useful for like sorting out issues you have with the past. Like one thing you may have heard Peterson say is that if you have a memory that's more than 18 months old and it still causes you an emotional reaction that's negative, then you haven't properly dealt with that. So self-authoring will help you sort through your own past and can be good emotionally. Then you do a present authoring, which is where you take stock of what your life is like now and examine who you are at the moment. Then the future authoring, you set out your goals. Also a part of future authoring is and it's all questions that leads you through it. So you can just take it step by step, like it guides you completely how to do it. But it'll lead you to examine, if you imagine your worst future, like you know yourself, what are your weak points? What are your vices? If you just did everything wrong and went the worst way you could, where would you end up in the future? And to think on that. And his idea there is to imagine your own personal hell. What's the worst situation you could get yourself in? And being aware of that is a motivation of something to sort of run from, your own personal hell. Then you also do a vision of the best version of your life, your personal heaven. If you could have your life the way you wanted it, what would it look like? And then it walks you through how to begin planning your steps to work towards that. And it'll encourage you with all aspects of your life. And the one thing I do like about it is that this isn't like a program where it's walking you through how to do what he thinks is right. He asks you on all of this shit what you want. So when it comes to planning your social life, he doesn't tell you what your social life should be. He asks you things to find out what it is you want your social life to be. Or the same thing, there's a section for drugs and alcohol. He doesn't tell you what drugs or alcohol you should do or how much. What he says is you yourself write down what drugs and alcohol are good for you, which ones aren't, and to actually decide how much do I want to drink or not. And if so, how much do I want to drink? So that you're not just falling into bad habits, but actually planning it out. And I forget what it costs. But it wasn't very expensive to do the self-authoring program. So I think that's definitely something worth doing. But that was all general advice. If you don't want to share personal details, just don't fucking answer. But if you do feel like sharing, what is it you're studying? And does anyone else have anything they want to wrap up on? I think I'm about ready to jump off. You're finishing high school. Okay, cool. All that still applies. Definitely do the self-authoring. I highly recommend honesty and mindfulness, meditation to learn those skills. And yeah, a break of some time alone, a little journey of self-discovery before moving forward in life can be very good. Offhanded says, good night, Mr. Black. Good night, Offhanded. So I was going to just say that I hope everyone's doing well and not poorly affected by this, but I do understand the value of difficulties. So I hope that everyone, whatever difficulties people are encountering, are the ones that serve them best. And I hope they find the way to get the most out of it. Yeah, and for anyone watching this later, comment down below if anyone just wants to share how they're doing so we have an idea of how everyone's doing. And if anyone's really struggling anyone really needs to talk or wants to come on and discuss something on the channel, because it seems maybe some people want some more content, right into sortingmyselfout0 at gmail.com, and someone will get back to you eventually. I don't know. And Benjamin says, one thought I have is when I listen to music sometimes, it's to simulate a state of mind for if I were able to achieve what I'd like ideally. Yeah, absolutely. The music can be very powerful for altering your state of mind, your your emotional and energetic state. That's why so much music's used in religion and magical ceremonies, even in any ceremonies. All right, I think we're good. So, blessings and lunatic love to all, and perhaps I'll come on a little more often over the next little while. I'm not sure yet. And anyone who wants to get in on some hangouts, like some viewing parties, try the link Grizz posted. All right, good night, everyone.